Hi everyone, Happy New Year! What can we expect from Bitcoin in January 2025? This is where we are right now, laying on this orange stick. This orange stick belongs to a fractal which I posted originally on 22nd of December 2024. At the time, Bitcoin was at a crossroad, whether to go up or whether to go down, and I posted both sets of fractals, two bullish fractals showing Bitcoin heading straight up, and then two bearish fractals. Since then, the bullish fractals have been invalidated, and but these bearish fractals that I posted, then they remain valid. So since then, what I did, I removed the bullish fractals as they got invalidated, and I'm keeping only those two so-called bearish fractals. They're not really bearish, but they're certainly not as bullish as those other fractals that you saw there on the top. So on 30th of December, I removed that noise from those other fractals, and here I just presented them in a more visually appealing way, but they're the same. It's the same cycle that I posted there on 22nd of December. So why have I decided to post these fractals is because on 30th of December we marked a very important point in astro world, and that is the midpoint between eclipses, between the solar eclipses. So just for people who follow my research, I'm working only with the solar eclipses. I haven't really got to the point to investigate lunar eclipses, because that's a totally different world, and so far I'm getting a lot of accuracy from the solar eclipses. So if something is working, why change it? Once I obtain really strong accuracy, like over 80%, just from using the solar eclipses, who knows, maybe I'll find the time to investigate the lunar eclipses. But at this present moment, the solar eclipses are working pretty well. I have back tested all the solar eclipses, and I have discovered that the midpoint between solar eclipses is quite significant. Not with empty words. As you know me, I back test everything and I calculate every significance in percentages so that I'm exactly clear how significant it is. And this is my research here, which shows how important the midpoints are. So I take a midpoint from a previous eclipse and I count the days, how many days from that midpoint have delivered the significant bottom, or significant pivot low, significant pivot high. I'm counting how many days after the midpoint and how many days before the midpoint there was a significant pivot. And then what I have done after that is the same number of days. I count them from the midpoint in 2024. The previous midpoint, not this one, because I needed to get evidence whether it's working. So I used the previous midpoint in 2024, and I mapped exactly the same number of days as these previous eclipses have suggested. And I mapped them onto 2024, and I obtained a set of dates for bottoms and for tops. And then I started checking them, how they will perform in 2025, in 2024. So 2024 is already tested, right? So these two have a yellow cross, means that they were not relevant. They didn't manifest as pivots. And then we started 24th of December 2024 manifested as a pivot, 8th of July 2024 manifested as a pivot. So these are getting green ticks. Okay, some of them manifested as pivots but in the opposite direction, and my research is very strict, because I'm trading with my own money and with family money as well, so I don't really like giving anything to chance. I'm not satisfied if I get a date of a pivot but I don't know what kind of pivot that will be, just not good enough for me, so it gets across. It doesn't get a tick. So for example, the 6th of July here was generated as a date for a pivot top, but it manifested as a pivot low. For that reason, it got across. Okay, so if we count all the crosses and all the ticks and all the green ticks, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 green ticks, and we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 crosses. So that is 9 out of 14 in terms of percentages. So that is 64% accuracy, which is not bad. Just for an astro event to deliver 64% accuracy is quite a good probability. So for that reason, I decided that I will continue using the midpoint between the solar eclipses, and whenever I have a question about Bitcoin, that will be one of the first things that I will be using. And the closer we are to an astro event, the more valid it is. So if that midpoint was some other time, I still would have used it, but I wouldn't be as keen as now, because this midpoint happened just very recently, only a couple of days ago. So for that reason, and you can see it emerged as the top fractal so far. I posted it on 22nd of December. Up until today, this fractal remains valid. And I'm well aware of other astro events that are happening in January. And I know I have looked at the fractals. I'm prepared that this fractal may get invalidated at any minute in time. And if it gets invalidated, I will then bring those other astro events. I will bring their historical performance in the shape of a fractal, because I don't like using words. It's kind of meaningless in trading to use words. It's so much easier to visualize our expectations just by posting a fractal from the historical performance of the astro cycles that are in operation at present. So at this moment in time, this is what remains valid. It hasn't been invalidated yet, and you can see here these are the dates that were suggested as a bottom. So 29th of December was suggested as a bottom. That didn't materialize, but then what materialized is 30th of December as a local bottom. It's too early to make any conclusions. It didn't really look like a bottom, but if the range is going to be a narrow range, it is a decent bottom for a narrow range, right? It's not one of those deep candles that for global kind of bottoms, but for a narrow range it's okay as a bottom, the 30th of December. So I kind of accept it, and then I keep an open mind. If it becomes invalidated, I will then bring the other fractal. So just to warn you what the next fractal that could be in play. If it becomes invalidated, it's very unlikely that it will become invalidated to the upside. I don't expect strong moves to the upside from today onwards for the next couple of days. But because the other astro events that are in operation, their fractals are actually pointing down. So for that reason, if it does become invalidated and it decides to start heading down again, then we're looking at a local bottom around the 5th of January. Okay, I'm warning you about that now before it has happened. But I haven't brought that fractal here because it's very difficult to visualize when there are so many fractals on top of each other. It becomes really a struggle to actually see what is going on. So that's the only reason I haven't brought it. By the way, it's not this fractal here. What is the date here? This one is showing 4th of January. Which is, yes, close enough to 5th of January, but there is another fractal which points to a bottom of 5th of January. So that is, in my research so far, the 5th of January is the very latest by which we will get a bull reversal in January. But more likely is that the local bottom is already in, because this hasn't been invalidated. Only if it becomes invalidated, then we'll be looking for the 4th or 5th of January to become the next local bottom. And then what happens from here is, you can see now, this fractal makes the 22nd of January a top. This fractal is based on the historical performance of Bitcoin when there is after the midpoint between the two solar eclipses. It doesn't care that there is an inauguration on the 20th of January. It doesn't know that. It doesn't know it. It doesn't care. And you can see here it's coinciding with the inauguration, and it makes sense when we include that very big factor, which, whether we like it or not, it is a very big factor, the Trump inauguration. So, so far, what my research is projecting is that we're going to top around the inauguration. Could be the 22nd, could be a couple of days earlier. You can see here the 20th is given as a strong date, then 21st a bit weaker, and then 22nd of January, the ultimate top, local top, of course. In terms of price, it's given as 106,519 in terms of price. Now, it would be crazy if this fractal is so accurate that it can even predict the price. So keep an open mind. I'm not saying that this is what will happen. I'm just saying the last time Bitcoin performed after the midpoint between the two solar eclipses, this is what happened. So, and I have, when I copied it and pasted it from that performance, I was very careful not to move anything. I haven't adjusted any candles. I deliberately wanted to map it 1-to-1. So maybe a bit lower. It is possible that it's a bit lower. It is possible, the highest possible, according to this fractal, is 107,000 and then 772, according to this fractal. But again, it will be pedantic for us to rely. It will be naive as well to rely on a fractal to give us the price. The best we can get from a fractal is get at least one pivot. So we got the pivot low so far. That hasn't been invalidated, just with a 1 day difference. The fractal showed it as 29th of December, and actually it panned out to be 30th of December. So we got a pivot low from this fractal. We are getting the direction of travel. So this fractal is doing a good job. If it can just predict those two things, it's doing a good job. From there on, if it manages to predict the price as well, that is a bonus, an extra bonus. But we don't actually have to be so naive to rely on that, because at the end of the day, there are new astro events that are taking place. With every passing day, new things are coming in the sky, and they will be giving their influence as well. But still, the eclipse's influence is always strongest, because eclipses make entrenched patterns. They are lodged. It's very difficult to dislodge an eclipse. Everybody knows in advance where the eclipse is going to go. They're quite set in their motion, and therefore it makes sense that they are predictable as well. But at the same time, we keep an open mind, and we're ready for any eventualities. So I'm not going to bring those to the surface, where the dangers, the possible weaknesses are, on what dates I expect invalidations. At the moment, I'm keeping them just in my private research. There is no point making the video very long and then bombarding with what could happen. We're just waiting for an invalidation. When the invalidation comes, then I'll present those other fractals that belong to other astro events that are taking place in the month. The most important is, as I already said, is that there may be an eventual dump all the way to the 5th, but highly unlikely, because this other cycle, which is dumping on, which made the bottom on the 5th of January. By the way, just be careful. how you interpret me. It doesn't mean that the bottom in the past has been on the 5th of January. I mean the bottom in relation to the midpoint, right? So that other fractal is not as valid as this fractal, right? But it's a bit too long to explain. So for now, this is the valid fractal that we are on, and we're keeping an open mind. I'm long, by the way, because I want to benefit from this rally. I'm not giving you a signal to open long positions. I do not advise people on trading strategies, but just for your information, I'm all in, I'm long. So yes, we'll see, because even if we go down, I trade only spot, by the way. So even if we go down, to me, it's not a big problem if we go down a little bit lower before the 5th, because these are now two fractals here, two cycles. These are, by the way, completely different astro events, and you can see the historical performance is very similar. It's heading up, just the bottom date is a little bit later here in this fractal, in the white fractal. And then we have fractal number 3, which belongs to a totally different event as well. And that fractal number 3, the blue one, is also pointing to a top on the 22nd of January. So for now, I have done my research, and these are my projections. If something gets invalidated, we'll deal with it at the time. Bye for now.